This is Beat the Closing Line with Nicole, Mo, and Eli.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beat the Closing Line. I am your host, Nicole Russo, alongside resident NFL analyst for TheLines.com, Eli Hershkovich, and Mo Nuwwarah. Now we have made it to the playoffs. So today we're going to take a look at some of these wildcard matchups and discuss bets that we like as we head into the postseason. The guys are 28-20. Actually, no, I lied. They are 38, 24, and 2. I'm not giving you guys credit for all of your winning bets so far this season. And I hope we discussed last week that you guys were thinking about taking the Browns +3, and you were so sure that the Steelers couldn't get it done. And to be honest, I actually didn't think we were going to win by as much as we did, but we pulled it off for Tomlin. So did either of you bite the bullet and actually take the Browns last week?
I didn't end up back in Cleveland. I had the Titans and the Packers lines under. Both of those hit. I know, Mo, sorry to say, Mo, you had Cleveland, I believe, in a bunch of different directions.
Lost many dollars on the Browns this weekend in many different forms, but that's okay. It was still a good weekend because of live wagers. My second straight week crushing it on live wagers. So I actually gave them to the people in the Discord this week. So we got some in there for the masses.
So even more reason, if you are not already in the Discord channel, following the Discord channel, have the notifications on for the Discord channel to go over there and do so. All right. Should we get into Wildcard Weekend? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. So the Niners are going to host the 7th seeded Seattle Seahawks this weekend. This will mark their third matchup this season, and the Niners are currently 2-0 in that series. Now, Seattle got into the playoffs by securing a 19-16 overtime win against the Rams in the regular season finale, and with Green Bay's loss to Detroit as well. So they just snuck in there. Now, on the other side of the field, the Niners have yet to lose a game, with starter Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant turned Mr. Relevant, when he stepped in when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. Now, Mo, you're taking a look at this matchup, and you like the Seahawks +9.5 here.
Yeah, ready to get poked in the eye by Brock Purdy again. I think I'm like 0-3 fading him, maybe something like that. I did get a +10 though. Posted this in the Discord. Beat the dead horse here, but if you were in the Discord, you could have beat the market here. Hopefully, we'll see where it ends up. But for now, looks like the +10s are going away. I posted that on Sunday. It was actually +10 all day yesterday as well, I believe. So plenty of time to get that one. But it sounded like initially, actually, all the money was on the Niners. Our good friend Steven Andres was saying in the Discord that opened -6.5 here, I think, and then just like infinite money came in on the Niners, moved it all the way to 10. And I kind of get why people want to back the Niners here. I mean, the Seahawks backdoored their way in. You know, they needed the Lions to win. They did not have a particularly impressive close to the season. I was looking at I think maybe one good game in their final 8 weeks when they pasted the Jets, and questionable how impressive that even is when the Jets basically didn't show up. But I think that creates an old reliable buy low, sell high spot here. This is still a rookie quarterback, a 7th round pick, laying 10 points or close to 10. If you get the 9.5, I had 8.5 as fair. So I still think the 9.5 is okay. And we know how rookie / first time quarterbacks tend to play in the playoffs. It's not good. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, among the players we've seen just play absolutely atrociously in their first playoff games recently. I do think it helps that the Seahawks have a veteran quarterback. You know, Geno's not going to be fazed by this spot. He is going to be under a lot of pressure, though. That's really my biggest fear in this game. I watched basically the whole game the last time these two teams played, and he just did not have any clean pockets to work with. The 49ers pretty much overwhelmed their offensive line, so they need to kind of do some stuff scheme-wise. I'm hoping they can. They do have, a veteran coaching staff as well, so I think that'll help. Can't have another 40% pressure rate here like they did in the last game. That's that would like lead the NFL basically. So yeah, that's not good. Really a big wild card here though is the weather. Could depress the scoring overall, I'm thinking, which I think is helpful for my +10 here. But on the other hand, a rainstorm does potentially favor a team that wants to run the ball a little more, which the Niners are one of the strongest rushing offenses, and they destroyed the Seahawks on the ground in the first 2 games. I think they rushed for 170 plus and like 190 in both of their matchups here. So hopefully the Seahawks can actually, though, help them commit more to playing some heavier boxes and really challenge Purdy here. So I'm hoping the rain just makes for a lower scoring game and helps my bet out, but it could do some different things here. It could be crazy. I was reading these storms, they knocked out like 400, 500,000 people from having power last weekend. So we'll see if this is as crazy as last weekend's.
Yeah, this one's a tough spot for me because of this 49ers defense and just how good that they are. And for the Seahawks to cover, I think Geno's going to have to be a little more sharp, turn the ball over 3 times in the last 3 games. And I also think, and you touched on this, San Francisco can exploit the Seahawks, which do allow the 3rd most rushing yards this season. And they have the tools on the ground to exploit that rush defense. And I think the Niners win here with this being such a large spread. I'm personally going to pass on this one. Eli, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Mo and you both mentioned how the Seahawks have struggled to prevent opposing rushing attacks from going off. And like Mo mentioned, Kyle Shanahan in this 49ers zone rushing scheme is one of the best rushing offenses in the NFL. But if you go back to week 15 when these two teams last faced off, Al Woods, one of the better run-stopping defensive tackles in the NFL, didn't play in that game, and he's going to be suiting up in this game. So you factor that in, and maybe Seattle can limit San Francisco a bit more on the ground, lower total, bigger spread. I lean towards Seattle, but I am a little bit concerned backing Geno Smith in the Seahawks offense right now. Since week 14, Geno has the 4th fewest expected points added per dropback. So as much as I might be a little bit more of a believer in Seattle's ability to slow down Christian McCaffrey and San Francisco's ground game, I can't get behind the Seahawks offense right now. So I'm going to pass to Nicole.
And we're going to take it back to Mo because we're trying to go in chronological order for you here. And he's got the earlier slate. So we're taking a look at the Jags. 1 year after going 3-14 and having the number 1 draft pick, the Jags are in the playoffs and they will face the Chargers. Now, only 2 other teams have gone from the number 1 draft pick to winning a playoff game the next year. Mo, you're not necessarily saying the Jags are going to win this one, but you are considering them at +1.5.
Yeah, that's a cool stat actually. I hadn't seen that. I'm interested in the Jags. I haven't fired on the Jags yet. I do think the line is a little too high. I kind of thought this one should be a pick or maybe even Jags -1. It is a good situational spot for them. You do have the Chargers traveling cross country on a short week here. I think that should certainly help the Jags a little bit. And more importantly, Mike Williams did get banged up in the last game. Just a bizarre situation. The Chargers just opted to play like it was a serious game for 3/4 of the game. And of all teams that should be, I think, careful about exposing their guys to injuries, I think the Chargers should maybe be the most leery of it, but here they were, and it maybe bit them. We'll see what happens, but they said they expect Mike Williams to practice, which means he should be playing, but if he's less than 100%, who knows? I mean, we have seen this offense really kind of sputter along in a lot of spots when they don't have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both healthy and available. That being said, I was actually looking, and their ADOT has been very, very healthy in recent weeks. So above 7, closer to 8 in some of these games, which makes me think maybe I should stop dumping on the Chargers offensive coordinator. Maybe it's all the injuries, but I don't know. But it was horrible for most of the season where it was just dump off city to Austin Eckler. I mean, Austin Eckler is a good player, but that's not how you want to run your offense. Also, Joey Bosa coming back. He was having a few effective pass rushes against the Broncos. So with the Chargers kind of rounding into form and getting healthy, I am a little bit leery of fading them. I'm not sure if I'm going to pull the trigger here. I'm thinking about maybe a teaser, possibly with the Bucks here. Trevor Lawrence, I thought played very well against the Titans. I know people were dumping on him for some high-profile misses, big end zone miss where dude was wide open, but overall I thought he had a very good game, and he has a coach that is good in the playoffs. Doug Peterson is a good coach. We've seen him succeed and win in the playoffs, and I still am a little bit leery of this Chargers coaching staff. So I thought the Jags, I think they're a strong team, and I think they're right there with the Chargers.
Your dog either really agrees with you or really disagrees with you. I can't tell, but he has been quite vocal on, hey, no, you should just let him keep making his picks. That's what,
Wow.
He's part of. Look, poor Mo, he's kicking the dog out of the room. Eli, what do you think about this matchup? We'll just, let Mo come back whenever he's ready.
Yeah, I think Mo's dog certainly agrees with Mo's picks because Mo did take 2 dogs in the teaser, teasing up the Bucks and the Jags. But to Mo's point, actually, Mo's brought up some great points so far. And Jags Chargers down to a pick at Caesars. That's the one sports book that has this game at a pick 'em. And you can find the rest of the NFL wildcard odds over at TheLines.com for spreads, totals, and money line bets as well. But Mo mentioned some of the Chargers injuries, and it looks like Mike Williams, Joey Bosa, and Kenneth Murray are all going to play, even though they suffered some setbacks in Week 18. I agree with Mo. No clue what the Chargers coaching staff was thinking playing those guys, playing like it was a meaningful game. But the biggest mismatches for me are Justin Herbert against the Chargers secondary or against the Jaguars secondary, and the Chargers pass rush against this Jacksonville offensive line, which is very susceptible. So while the spread seems right to me, I do think Los Angeles has the biggest advantages in this game, the biggest edges, and I can't bet Jacksonville. You go back to last week, Mo mentioned how Lawrence missed a couple throws, especially to Christian Kirk, and Jacksonville was Joshua Dobbs, a fumble resulting in a touchdown, a great play by the Jaguars defense, but they're one sequence away from not playing in this game. And obviously that doesn't indicate that Jacksonville can't go on a run or at least can't win in the wild card round. But I don't like the way Jacksonville matches up against LA if those 3 guys are indeed going to suit up. So going to pass on another game for me.
All right, Eli, we're going to take it over to your bets now, and we're going to take a look at the Giants and the Vikings. Now, the Giants in the last game of the regular season against Philly didn't really play any of their starters, played a lot of backups, so it's really hard to take their performance last weekend and use it to handicap this wild card matchup against the Vikings. Now, the last time these two teams met was on Christmas Eve, where the Vikings won 27-24, but a lot of that was due to some Giants mishaps. Now, New York is a 3-point dog here, and you think they can cover.
Yeah, I love this matchup from a lot of different angles. So let's start off with the negative for New York, the lone negative, at least how I see it, because Mo mentioned first-time quarterbacks against quarterbacks that have some sort of experience in the playoffs, or at least first-time playoff quarterbacks making, again, their first start. And those quarterbacks, 16-34 straight up, 14-35, and 1 against the spread. So that indicates that Daniel Jones could struggle against a Minnesota team that's playing in one of the best and biggest home field advantages in the NFL. But I still think Minnesota is due for even more regression than what we've seen of late. And even with that being said, Minnesota did pull off another one-score win against New York, like you mentioned, Nicole, on Christmas Eve. So that's 1 of 11 one-score wins this season for the Vikings. That's an NFL record. And consider also that the Vikings finished with the worst point differential in comparison to the Lions and the Packers. So 2 teams that finished below them in the NFC North standings. You flip some of those games, the Vikings are potentially a wild card team or maybe even missing the playoffs. And if you go back to that Giants loss, even though the Vikings didn't cover that game, the Giants did cover as 4.5-point road dogs and lost the game outright, obviously. New York didn't have Adoree Jackson in that game, who's a top 30 coverage cornerback this season. And Also, safety Xavier McKinney didn't play. Azeez Ojulari, who's underperformed this year when he suited up in terms of his pass rushing ability, but he still suffered an injury early on in that game and only played minimal snaps. So that's big. The Giants are going to have him back. And then on the other side, the Vikings are much, much less healthy in this game as right tackle Brian O'Neill is done for the season. And Kevin O'Connell also alluded to the fact that center Garrett Bradbury could miss this game too for Minnesota. So the Vikings very banged up on their offensive line, and considering the fact that Minnesota ranks number 22 in the NFL in pass block win rate, again with Ojulari and Thibodeau, I think the Giants are going to be able to get a lot of pressure. Dexter Lawrence also healthy and going to suit up. And with that being considered, Wink Martindale, the Giants defensive coordinator, who's very much known for his blitzing prowess, and just if you go back to his Baltimore days, the Ravens blitzed a ton. The Giants are blitzing a ton since Wink has taken over this New York defense, and that's, again, the fact here this season. The Giants have the highest pressure rate, or the 8th highest pressure rate in the NFL, and the highest blitz percentage in the league. So you couple that with the Giants getting healthier in their secondary. I think York has an advantage on that side of the ball if they can generate pressure on Cousins. And then also just a big mismatch for this Giants offense, even with a quarterback making his first career playoff start. Brian Dable versus Ed Donatel, to me, is a complete mismatch, especially with Dable getting a chance to adjust after their first meeting back in Week 16. The Vikings rank number 21 in the NFL in opponents' rushing success rate. So if Saquon Barkley can have success on the ground, be efficient on the ground, which I think he'll be able to do, then it's Daniel Jones getting an opportunity off of play-action pass attempts against a shell zone defense that Donatel runs. And if you compare Jones's numbers against man-to-man coverage versus zone coverage, it's a significant difference. He is the number 2 passer rating against zone defenses this season in comparison to a number 25 ranking against man-to-man coverage. So even though this spread has adjusted from 4.5 down to 3, which is where I bet the Giants at, and I get it, it's maybe a little bit more of a significant adjustment than people would anticipate, or than people would think, to the point that there's value in the spread, in the current spread at a field goal. But I bet the Giants at +3. I still think it's a warranted adjustment, and I'm back in Big Blue in this wild card game.
I mean, we've talked about this week in and week out, that if you were just to take a look at this Vikings record, it absolutely does not tell the whole story. I think Mo would say it's probably one of the most fraudulent records in the NFL. And we talked about the last 2 times that these teams met. The Giants, I mean, yes, the Vikings won the game, but the Giants kind of shot themselves in the foot in that matchup. They put up 445 offensive yards, but key mistakes like a Daniel Jones interception. We had drop passes. I mean, the game really could have went either way. Minnesota ranks 31st in pass defense, so I'm interested to see if they go to Barkley this time, because they think that Minnesota has adjusted, because they went to Daniel Jones over and over and over in that Christmas Eve matchup. They had, I believe, almost 50 dropbacks from Daniel Jones compared to just under 20 run plays in the last time that these two teams met. So I'm interested to see if they rely on Daniel Jones that heavily again, or if they feel like Minnesota has made that adjustment after they put up so many offensive yards against them in that last matchup. Now, this Giants team also has the second fewest turnovers in the league this season, so I also think taking time away from Minnesota is going to be crucial here. And the Giants have a 7-1 against the spread record on the road. I think they can continue that. I definitely think that they can cover, if not win outright in this one. Mo, what do you think?
I thought the line was right. Like, my initial instinct was this line should be 3. I'm definitely seeing things on both sides. I mean, like you guys were saying, really, the Giants kind of should have won that other game. I know they fell behind kind of early, but it was basically turnovers and penalties. I mean, they had I think it was 7 for 63 penalties, and then -2 in the turnover department. I believe Minnesota was clean in that game with none. So, and I think they had 1 penalty. So they just really got killed on penalties and turnovers, and it was just really their own mistakes. That being said, like Eli said, the first-time quarterback on the road in a very tough environment. One of the few that you would say like might make a difference. And just overall, I think the Vikings have a more talented team, but I am concerned about the offensive line for sure. I mean, especially with, Kayvon Thibodeau has really been picking it up. He's looking good lately. Celebrations by dead quarterbacks notwithstanding. But I'm seeing something. Oli Udoh is projected to be the starter now for Minnesota. No idea who that is. It looks like he played 132 snaps only this season. PFF likes what he's been doing. He's a 6th rounder from a few years back out of Elon. I don't know if he's ready for an assignment like this in a game like this. So we'll see what this Vikings passing offense looks like. If they have multiple O-linemen now, I mean, we've seen sometimes in the past where cascading injuries on the O-line can really just sink even the best of offenses. I mean, obviously the best example is probably the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, just a team that they just pretty much dominated in the regular season, and then just all the injuries, and they just got overwhelmed up front by the Bucs. So if the Giants can do the same thing, then they should honestly win this game.
All right, now taking it into our final game for today's show, we are taking a look at the Bengals, who will begin defending their AFC title on Sunday night against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this one is a tough one to handicap, and Eli, you're going to go into some of the reasons a little bit more, but we haven't seen Lamar Jackson play in the last 5 games, and we're still not even sure if he's going to play on Sunday. So kind of talk us through this line. If you think that the line has, basically built in this Lamar uncertainty, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Nicole, definitely baked in. Like you mentioned, missing the last 5 games with the PCL injury. So it's unknown if he's going to practice or play. Honestly, listening to Harbaugh and kind of reading between the lines of some of the beat reporters, it sounds like it's leaning more towards, or Jackson's injury is leaning more towards him sitting out this game. And then you factor in the contract and maybe personal preference long-term for him in terms of value in the market and value towards the Ravens if he wants to stay there or doesn't want to stay there. So just a lot of different factors going into not only Baltimore's entire injury report and the injuries on both sides for both teams, but individually if Jackson is going to play for a lot of different reasons. And just looking at Baltimore from their offensive structure under Greg Roman, this is well known. This isn't up in the air, or there isn't any uncertainty for these two guys, but Ravens obviously still without Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay. Now on the flip side, the Bengals are without some key offensive linemen, including right guard Alex Kappa, who got hurt against the Ravens in Week 18. Remember, these two teams just faced off, similar to the Giants and the Vikings, except it was just last week. Kappa suffered a left knee injury against the Ravens, and Lyle Collins, their right tackle, is also out. And then the Bengals are still without one of the better cornerbacks in the league in Awuzie. And then you also factor in not only is Joe Burrow's offensive line hurt, but Burrow in this Bengals offense is putting up the 4th fewest yards per play in their last 3 games. So the efficiency, the effectiveness just hasn't been there of late. Burrow mentioned after the game that his struggles were kind of warranted. And then you factor in how well this Ravens defense is playing. They've allowed 16 points or fewer in 6 of their last 8 games. Bengals turnover luck is also something to consider. Cincinnati ranks number 6 in the league in turnover differential. So that could carry over for an entire season, certainly, and into the playoffs. But Cincinnati has gotten a bit lucky. And then if these offensive woes continue, things could continue just to go south overall for the Bengals, even though they've won the division. Granted, didn't play in Week 17, or that game didn't count, but nonetheless, it all boils down to Lamar Jackson's status. If he plays, and even if this line gets adjusted down, which it definitely will, I still think it's over the key number of 3 if he does play. And I'll be on the Ravens may take a look towards the under, which is sitting at 43.5 if he doesn't play. But just too many factors to consider at this point for me to bet anything in this game. I'm going to wait, even though the adjustments will definitely come with Jackson's status being determined.
Yeah, and I think this is on me. I forgot to mention, I believe the Bengals are currently 6.5 point favorites. So I think we forgot to touch on that in the beginning. But these two teams just played each other. The Bengals came out on top. I don't know how much the game plan's going to change with Lamar potentially in the mix. Like you said, it's probably baked into this current line. But again, even if he does start, he hasn't really taken any meaningful snaps, any meaningful practice reps in the last 5 weeks. So I think he's going to be a little rusty if they, thrust him back into the mix in this wild card matchup. Now, I'm not sure I would bet on the spread either. I'm leaning with you, betting the under here. The defenses have been solid since he allowed 21 or fewer points 6 times in their last 8 games. And Baltimore, like you said, Eli, allowing 16 or fewer points in 6 of the last 8 games. With those numbers being what they are from these two defenses, and the Ravens still potentially hampered on offense with the Lamar injury, not knowing if he's 100%. I'm going to take the under at under 43.5. Mo, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I have more guts than you guys, and I guess maybe just more risk tolerance. I feel like I've been wrong on these more than I've been right, but I keep banking on some of these quarterbacks situations going a certain way, and I feel like more of them have gone against me than not. But gonna try again. Already locked in Ravens plus 6.5. Like Eli said, the line is just too high if Lamar plays. I think we're gonna see something closer to Cincy -4 here. Man, strong chance was the quote. I went by strong chance. They said strong chance. Now they're waffling, but I don't know. I'm hoping it's just a smokescreen and they don't want the Bengals to be able to lock in and prepare for Lamar. We have been seeing another thing that I've been noticing, same as Eli. This Bengals offense hasn't been as good as people think lately. I know they've trucked a lot of these bad teams, 37, whatever it was on the Steelers, 30-something, 40, whatever it was on the Panthers. But we've seen them struggle against some of the stronger pass defenses they faced. That Bucs game, not to bring up more past pain for myself, but 4.5 yards per attempt for Joe Burrow on dropbacks in that game. 4.6 versus the Ravens last game. Like Eli said, this offense, it's very good, but they have shown themselves that they can be slowed down by these stronger pass defenses. And the Ravens might be one of these strongest pass defenses. I mean, this defense has had a sneaky elite season. After their early struggles, they've been very, very strong. And I know the level of competition hasn't been good, but DVOA is supposed to take that into account, and DVOA has them 7th. So ever since week 3, basically, they've had one bad game as far as defending opposing offenses, which was when Jacksonville destroyed them at home, and that's basically been it. Even in week 3, when they lost to the Bills 23-20, they really limited Josh Allen, and that was when the Bills were absolutely cooking, looking like a completely unstoppable force on offense. So I do like the Ravens here, and yeah, like another thing Eli said, like the turnovers. I mean, the Bucs game, the Ravens game, they were basically handed those games by opposing turnovers. And yeah, when it's Anthony Brown, that's fine. That's predictive. You can say, okay, I knew that was going to happen, right? It's Anthony Brown, sure. But if this is Lamar Jackson, I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is the best in the world at taking care of the ball. We've seen some bizarre turnovers from him for sure. He has some baffling interceptions at times, but I don't think you can ever say you expect 4 turnovers. So, yeah, this game should be close. I mean, this should just be a close game if Lamar's in there.
And just to take this conversation full circle, too, Mo, you mentioned, and I hit on it with the Daniel Jones or the first start for quarterbacks in a playoff game stat and record. But coaching matters, too. And I brought up Brian Dable and Daniel Jones, obviously Jones having Dable to work with. But, I mean, the coaching mismatch in this game between John Harbaugh and Zach Taylor. I know Cincinnati is the defending AFC champions, but, I mean, that is a mismatch. I don't want to say no matter who starts a quarterback for the Ravens, because Anthony Brown starting a quarterback for Baltimore is definitely a downgrade over one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And also take this conversation full circle, Nicole truly jinxed our Ravens' futures.
I knew it was coming
to win the AFC North. Yeah, you really screwed us over, Nicole.
Sorry,
Come
guys.
on now.
We are all, I think, pretty excited over here for the playoffs to begin. And thanks for sticking with us this whole season. And if you are betting on the wildcard weekend, good luck with your bets. As always, head over to TheLines.com because these guys are going to have written previews for you, and check out our Discord.